Dear students, last day, while classifying materials, we have selected certain parameters based on which we will classify substances, and according to that, we have discussed about luster, which substances are lustrous, which substances are not lustrous. We have given examples also. We have discussed about smoothness of the surface, where we have seen some are rough, some are smooth. We have discussed about transparency, transparent material, opaque material, translucent. In each and every case, I have given some examples which I think have helped you to understand what is transparency and to what extent light is passing through which object. That also we have explained. And finally, we have discussed about hardness of a substance. Here in hardness, I want to add up little bit and then I will proceed into today's discussion. See, when we have discussed hardness, I said that diamond is the hardest substance known over this very earth's surface. But if I drop a diamond from my hand over the floor, will it not break? Is there no chance of breaking it into many pieces? If so, then how can we say that diamond is the hardest substance? Where we know that when we drop an iron hammer over a floor, the floor can get damaged if the floor is paved with tiles or marbles or any other kind of stones, but the hammer will not get any kind of damage. Then why are we telling that diamond is the hardest substance? This question must arise in our mind. What is the answer then? The answer is, we decide hardness of a substance by some other way, by some other means. What is that? Whenever we are rubbing one substance over another, the harder substance, the substance which we consider harder than the another, that harder substance should create a scratch, a mark of scratch over the second substance which we consider as the softer one. Yes, in the case of diamond, whenever we are using diamond to scratch over another surface, diamond is successful in putting that scratch mark, which is not possible with other substances that much successfully. For that reason, we consider diamond as the hardest substance. Now, we are entering into ductility and malleability. Ductility and malleability, once more, will come across when you will study metals and non-metals in class 8. Now, let us discuss this very word ductile and malleable for this chapter also. A solid material is ductile if it can be bent or its shape can be changed without breaking it. A ductile material can be drawn into wire. Let us just again take one example. You, the students, you all are very fond of chewing gum. After chewing a chewing gum for about say 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, if you are taking out that chewing gum in your hand, if you drag that chewing gum with two hands, the chewing gum gets converted into a thread-like structure, which is not possible with a biscuit, which is not possible with a potato chips. It will break into many pieces. But it is possible with that chewing gum which you have chewed for a while. In the same way, there are certain materials, mainly some metals are there, which shows this property, which can be drawn into wire. So that is what we say as ductility. A solid material is said to be malleable also if it can be beaten or pressed into sheets or foils. Yes, that can be done with aluminium. When aluminium beads are beaten, they get converted into sheets, and that is why we use aluminium in the form of aluminium foil for wrapping your food items. Many of you are bringing the tiffin in your school. Your mother is sending that tiffin, that food item, wrapped in some aluminium foil. So that aluminium foil is getting created because it is malleable. We are also using aluminium foil for wrapping the various tablets. There also we are having the aluminium wrapper. So there malleability comes into existence, which is not possible with a biscuit, which is not possible with a potato chips. Whenever you are hammering a biscuit or a potato chips, it breaks into many pieces. That means it is brittle. So on the basis of malleability, ductility, and the fragile or the brittle nature of a material, we can classify that material. Now, the next parameter which we are supposed to consider is the floating or sinking of a material in water. You must have noticed that many substances float, whereas many others sink in water. Let us do the following activity to see which substance float and which sink. Let us collect some common substances. Some examples are like it can be some plastic or a stone or a rubber, it can be wax, it can be some oil like coconut oil, mustard oil, it can be jam or a paper or honey, iron, nail, wood, it can be some fruits like coconut. So in this way we can try with various substances, either living or non-living, and we can classify them according to which substance are floating and which substance are sinking in water. The criteria, the conditions for floating is little bit beyond this very chapter, because we are supposed to discuss that part under physics in some other classes. So today we will not concentrate on the cause of sinking or the cause of floating. Today we are only concerned with which substance are floating and which substance are sinking. If we can identify that part, then on that parameter, on basis of that parameter also, we can classify substances. Next comes solubility. Solubility is another parameter on which we can classify various substances. When sugar is stirred well in water, after pouring a teaspoonful of sugar, suppose in a glass full of water, it disappears. Surely it disappears. In fact, the sugar crystals break up into molecules which are becoming invisible. The sugar molecules mixes with the water molecules so intimately that they cannot be distinguished anymore. Here also we can little bit explain the cause of this very dissolving of sugar in water from chemistry, where we know that the particles of water are keeping some intermolecular space between themselves, and those intermolecular space is filled up with these sugar particles. You will notice one thing, that when your mom is dissolving milk powder in water, she always prefer hot water. Why, students? What is the reason? The reason is, whenever we are warming water, the particles of water are dispersing much more away from one another. As a result, the solubility increases automatically. On the other hand, if we are keeping the water cool, then this intermolecular space is lesser in number, and so solubility becomes difficult. So this is about solubility. We say that sugar is soluble in water, that is, it dissolves in water and forms a solution. Thus, a solution is a homogeneous mixture. Substance like sand, like chalk, like sawdust, they do not dissolve in water, and so they are known as insoluble so far as water is concerned. Some liquids like glycerin and shampoo also mixes with water to form a solution. Such a liquid are said to be miscible with water. Liquids like oil, edible oil, like it can be mustard oil, it can be sunflower oil or groundnut oil, or kerosene, which do not mix with water, are said to be immiscible with water. Immiscible liquids, when mixed, form a separate layer. Some gases like oxygen and carbon dioxide are also soluble in water. Air, which is a mixture of gas, is soluble in water to some extent. Aquatic plants and animals use the carbon dioxide and the oxygen dissolved in water for their survival. It is much more easy to understand why and in what way the aquatic plants and animals are surviving. Surely there is presence of oxygen in the water, then only the aquatic animals are surviving. On the other hand, surely some carbon dioxide is there in water, which enables the aquatic plants to carry out photosynthesis. So this much fact proves the presence of these important gases in water bodies. It can be river, it can be a lake, it can be a pond or ocean, etc., etc. A liquid that dissolves other substances is called a solvent, and the substance that dissolves is called a solute. For example, when we are mixing sugar with water, or say common salt, the table salt, with water, then the sugar or the salt is considered as the solute particles. On the other hand, we are using water for dissolving it, then water is considered as the solvent. Now this solute in the form of sugar or salt is dissolving in solvent, and hence this solute and solvent is mixing up to give us a solution. Now water, though most widely used, is not the only solvent used for dissolving other substance. There are many other solvents in this very world, although we consider water as the universal solvent, because in water most of the kind of solute particles, majority of kinds of solute particles can dissolve. So we consider water as the universal solvent. But that does not imply that water is the only solvent available over this very earth surface. There are many other solvents. Let us name few of them. Solvents like methylated spirit, petrol, kerosene oil, ethyl alcohol, acetone, ether are among many other solvents. A material that does not dissolve in one solvent may dissolve in another solvent. So there are many examples of solvent which are ready to dissolve the solute particles in themselves, thereby giving rise to the so-called solution. So whenever we are having this solution where the solute particles are uniformly distributed, then we term that solution as homogeneous solution, because after suppose we have added 1 teaspoonful of sugar in 1 glass of water, we have stirred that several times. So the sugar particles are uniformly distributed in the available space in the water which is contained in a glass. On the other hand, we may again pour 1 teaspoonful of sugar in a glass full of water, but now in the second case we are not stirring that sugar with a spoon inside the water. Then what will happen? The particles of sugar will remain at the floor of the glass, at the bottom of the glass, due to which if we drink the second sample we will not enjoy the sweetness of the water, because the sugar particles are not uniformly distributed. They are present only at the bottom, and the water at the higher level is devoid of any sugar particles. That kind of solutions are known as heterogeneous solution, where there is no uniform distribution of the sugar particles. It can be any other solid particles also, due to which ununiform distribution we call those kind of solution as heterogeneous solution. So dear students, we have discussed about the various parameters based on which we can judge or we can classify various available substances. Those parameters are luster, smoothness of surface, transparency, hardness, ductility, malleability, floating or sinking in water, solubility, and the homogeneous or the heterogeneous mixture, that also we have discussed in details. I hope you have enjoyed this very discussion. As time will permit us, in some next part We'll try to give you some notes also, although you may have received that beforehand. So this much is enough for today. In the next meet, we'll again start in the new manner. Till then, goodbye.